Welcome to This Life No Balance YouTube channel. Today we want to take a look at how to calculate interest rate, a step-by-step guide. In case you are new to this channel, here we discuss about money, grants, and other money related like scholarships. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Without wasting much time, let's see how to calculate interest rate. So what basically we intend to do today is to get the understanding of what an interest rate is all about, the types of interest we have, and then how do you calculate interest rate in case you are going for a loan or you are going for any facility that requires you to pay an interest on it. So what basically is an interest rate? So the percentage charged on the principal, that is the amount that you borrowed by a lender to a borrower for the use of that asset. So if you go for a facility like a loan from the bank, they charge you. So it's more like a fee that they charge you for using their asset. So common areas where interest applies, most especially in loans, credit cards, and savings accounts. Okay, yes, any type of loans most often goes along with an interest rate. So types of interest rate that you can come across. Okay, this common one is the simple interest. This interest is calculated only on the principal amounts, Okay, and then the compound interest, the interest is calculated on both the principal and then the accumulated interest over time. Later you will come to know what they mean by this. And there's also another form or another type of interest. We have a fixed and then a variable interest. The fixed remains constant. It means that for the time that you're going to take the loan or the facility, the interest rate will remain the same. If it is 5%, it's 5%. If it's 3%, 3%. But for variable interest rate, the rate keeps fluctuating. What it means that it keeps changing. Okay, yes. So these are the types of interest rate we have. Now let's see how you calculate the interest rate. We are starting with the simple interest rate. So the interest rate for a simple interest rate is principal times the rate multiplied by the time. Okay, yes. The principal is the initial amount that you invested or maybe you borrowed. The amount, if it is a loan, the amount that was given to you, that is the initial amount, which is the principal. And then the interest is the percentage charge against the principal. And then obviously the T is the period in years. So let's take for instance you are given or you borrow or you invest an amount of $1,000 at an interest rate of 5% per year for 3 years. Probably you want to know how much interest you will pay in terms of simple interest. Then it simply means that the amount that you borrow, which is your principal, which is $1,000, multiplied by 5%, 5 over 100, which is going to be 0.05, multiplied by the number of years, which is 3. At the end of the day, you are going to get $150. So that will be the interest that will be charged when you take $1,000 at that rate for that period of time. Good. Now let's take a look at the compound interest. So this is the formula for the compound interest. Obviously, what you see here is that the A, as you see, is the total amount including principal and then the interest. Okay, and then P is the principal, and then the R is the interest rate that is being charged on. The N is the number of times interest compounded per year. So if it is compounded every year, then N will be 1. Okay, If it is compounded semi-annually, it means that it's going to be twice every year in that order. And then the T is the number of years that the facility will be in force, if it is 5 years or 10 years or 2 years. So for instance, let's take the same amount of money that we use for the simple interest and see what will happen if we invest at compound interest, compounded annually for 3 years. So when you insert the values and do the calculations there, we're going to have an amount of 1,157.63. Remember, in this case, for you to know the actual interest that you are paying, you subtract the amount, the principal that was given from this amount that we have gotten, and that one will give us an amount of $157.63. Remember, when we were doing the simple interest, the same amount, the same period, the same rate, we had $150. So you will realize that the compound interest is a bit higher compared to the simple interest. So let's take a closer look at the differences between simple interest and compound interest. And in fact, the most common one that most people use is the compound interest because of its advantages. The difference is clear. For simple interest, it's always linear because the principal remains the same throughout. But for compound interest, the growing is exponential due to the compounding, because as you're going along, your new principal is being added to the interest. So it keeps growing at a very exponential rate. So let's take, for instance, that there is an amount of $5,000 that maybe you borrowed or you try to invest in something. The same rate for 5 years, 10% annual compounding. For simple interest, you are going to get, after the 5 years, you're going to get a total amount of $7,500, which when you do the interest itself is going to give you $2,500. Now compare that one with the compound interest. The same amount, the same number of years, the same rate. Total amount is approximately $8,132.62 cents. Now when you subtract it for you to find the interest, it's going to yield an interest of $3,138.62 cents. So you see clearly the difference between compound interest and then the simple interest. The compound interest has a higher value, especially over time. The gap between them becomes so wide. Okay, so clearly the compound interest is advantageous to the one receiving it. And graphically, this is how it looks like. So depending upon the amount of money that you borrowed, okay, over time. So you realize that when you look at the graph carefully, the red one is the compound interest. Look at the nature of this graph and look at that of the green color, which is the simple interest. So over time, especially for about a period of about 10 years, 15 years, the compound interest is going to grow exponentially. Okay, as a simple interest will remain as a straight line with a very simple gradient. Okay, yes, so that's how it looks like. So let's say maybe you want to find out how much you're gonna pay. All right, so these are the practical applications of interest rate calculation. So especially if you are going for a loan, understanding loan interest to avoid overpayment. Okay, great. So you know how you're going to pay, the amount that you're going to pay probably every month or at the end of the facility period, how much you're going to pay. When it comes to savings, you knowing how to calculate interest is going to help you whether to choose even simple interest or compound interest. And it will also help you how you can use compound interest to grow your savings over time. And in case of investment, it is also good for you to be able to calculate potential returns on different investment types. example like mortgage or savings account. So these are some of the applications that we can have interest being worked on. Now, how to use an online calculator for compound interest. So we are going to use this online calculator. This one is from the United States of America government. The website address investor.gov. So when you come to this site, you can come here, you go to financial tools and calculator, and then you come here and then click on the compound interest calculator, and then you have this page. Okay, all right, now it's a compound interest calculator. The initial amount that you are investing, so let's say you want to invest an amount of, let's say, $10,000. Okay, yes. And then in case you want to contribute some amount of money every month, but that's not our interest now, so we're not going to put anything there. Now when you scroll down here, the length of time in years, so we want to give this one, let's say, for 5 good years. Okay, now at what interest rate? Let's assume we are having about 10% interest rate. Okay, the interest rate variance range, just leave it, because you're going to have a constant interest rate throughout the period. And then how often I use the interest is going to be compounded. Let's take, say, every 1 year, that is annually. So we select the annually. Now we click on the calculate, so it will do the background calculation for you. Good. So this is what it means. If you invest $10,000, 10% for a period of 5 years, compounding annually, this is what you're going to have at the end of the day. This is the total amount that you're going to have, okay, which is $16,105. That's going to be the amount that we're going to have. So in effect, we'll have an average interest of $6,105. That is when you subtract the initial amount from this amount that we have here. So this is the graphical nature of it. So this is how the money is going to be grown exponentially. And of course, this one is the amount that was initially invested. Okay, good. Now you can also show a table. The table is going to help you to know for the first year, second year, the third year, and the fourth year, all the amount that you're going to be earned over this period for each of them. Yes. So with this, you can calculate for your compound interest and do an estimate how much you're going to get in every investment, which is using the compound interest approach. Thank you very much for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel.